Kia ora koutou nā mai, haere mai, welcome everyone. I'll just get us started with the karakia. E rā, I taminui te rā, whiti mai roka, whiti mai raro, kia pia te ti, kia wana te tia, kia rito te ti, ki tau mai, te mauri, humi e, hui e, tai ki e. Thanks team, welcome. We don't have too much to get through, I don't think, but thanks for everyone that's in attendance and all the managers. If there is specific questions in around long-term plan, performance measures, levels of service, etc. But we'll get kicked in. I've got one apology from Councillor Burt. Can I have a second for that? I'll move that, sorry. A seconder was Councillor Parker, thank you. Put the motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Public forum, nothing that I'm aware of. Minor nature, urgent business, any urgent business? Minor nature. I think the only thing, sorry? Was there minor nature? No. Minor nature, could we just have a brief update in and around the rubbish bins in general, if that's okay? And Bill, I'm not sure if it's just you or whether it sits across other people as well, but just that would be advantageous because it's one we get questions about a bit. Thank you. So we'll go now to conflicts of interest. Is there any conflict? Shouldn't be? No, thank you. Go to minutes, 7.1, minutes of the 19th of March 2024. Can I have a move for those? Councillor Jackson, thank you. Councillor Shannon, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the council meeting on the 27th of February. Councillor Booth, if you'd like to move that, Councillor Booth, thank you. Councillor Parker, seconder. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 8.1, release of public excluded reports. Is there any questions in regard to that? It was just the Meadows Road.
Just need amendment to that.
Yep.
It's got the wrong name of the person. It was amended, the person purchasing.
Okay, yep. So there's been an amendment to that. Yeah, it's a different one, eh? Yeah, so it's the, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that's, yeah, irrelevant. So can I have a mover in regard to the public excluded reports? Councillor Oliver, thank you. Councillor Pye, thank you. Put the motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Move to what we're here for, which is 8.2, finding the balance long-term plan 34 consultation document. Welcome, Stephen, Steph. And the floor is yours. That's on page 22, and we've all seen updated copies of the document.
Thank you, Mayors, Councillors. We are hopefully pleased to present you the final copy of the consultation document for the next long-term plan. We think this gives a good overview of what the main topics are and act as a good springboard for the conversations that we're hoping that we'll have with the public over the next month. It's quite an important part of the, when it's a legislative part of the process that you have to sort of hear from the community and give them a choice on matters, and then that enables you to see your thinking. So the plan is that this goes live, goes out with the courier on Thursday, and there'll be copies in all of our facilities as well. It will go online that day as well with all the background information on Thursday. And then it runs until 5 p.m. on May the 12th. And then we collate everything together for the hearings, which are May 27th to 29th. And then hopefully, everything going well, we'll be able to have a document for you to adopt on June the 25th.
Fantastic. Anything to add, Steph? No? Alrighty. Questions for the team? Councillor Booth.
Are you going to put it at Timaru Hill?
Yep, we'll be advertising in the Herald, the Magpie, the Geraldine News, Pleasant Point, various other places as well.
So will it go out as a insert in the Timaru Hill?
No, the reason we use the courier is that effectively it's cheaper than posting it out to everyone. An insert in the Herald would be significantly more expensive. It costs about, from memory, it's about $5,000 for the insert in the courier that goes to 28,000 mailboxes. And the Herald, is, because it's a paid for thing, it goes to fewer numbers than that. We will advertise in the Herald though, which will push people towards the online resource.
Councillor Scott.
I have just a couple of questions. One around, just questioning a paper we received. We weren't going to have the consultation document audited, but it seemed we got it audited. So I was just keen to understand what the process was there.
No, it wasn't audited, but the auditor read it and gave some comments. So the consultation document hasn't been audited.
I checked with that as well, and although it wasn't audited, it doesn't sort of give us a free pass not to meet the standard. So it doesn't go through the formal process, but it still has to meet the...
It was quite dictatorial because in your report it says basically if we don't follow this, we'll get an unaudited, we'll get some opinion thing. So it makes me feel like, well, it was.
The long-term plan is going to be audited, but the consultation document isn't, and there are only suggestions. And most of those suggestions we met.
Yeah, and the modified opinion relates to adding back in the performance measures that we had previously taken. No, so that's into the long-term plan document, yeah, the big one.
Good step into my last question is when will we receive the full document? Because again, I'm being asked to sign off a summary, and I am quite consistent in my thinking that I'd like to see the full document before summaries.
Yeah, so the full document just compiles everything you've already adopted. So that's all the sections you've already previously adopted, aside from adding in these additional performance measures in the next report. Yeah. You'll get that on Thursday. Yeah, we're just finalising some formatting and some finance sections of it, and then that'll be good to go.
Because all this is you're not formally accepting that LTP either, it's only of the draft that then comes back to you following the hearings and all the public feedback. So you get the final one in the proper term at the end of the process.
It's good to know. Thank you.
Brilliant. Councillor Parker, Councillor Jackson, no, at this side of the table. No, Councillor Piddington.
Yeah, I'm a wee bit with Councillor Scott. I would like to see audit's comments, just where the improvements were going forward if we do it again. If anyone's around, we at least know what we should have done.
Yep, that's agreed. It was unexpected on Friday afternoon at the level of comment, but a lot of it was just getting us to show our working a bit more. It was just putting some, rather than talking in broad terms about things, showing actual cause and effects of certain matters. So you'll just see, I mean, the main change is that at the bottom of the options is just a bit more detail about the actual levels of deficit and things like that.
I think actually, I'll reflect on this. Our long-term plan consultation document we've lifted it up to a higher level. And I think auditors and the public are used to one that's concentrating on one or two projects. So if you look at some councils, you know, they're talking about should we sell a hall or should we put a swimming pool in, where ours is actually talking at a higher level of saying, are we on the right path as a whole? And I think that that's quite different to what anyone else has ever done.
Alrighty, further questions this side of the table? Obviously, there's been a lot of work by many people in this. and thank you for all the scrambling over the weekend and what have you for the team. I know we don't see half of what goes on, so we really appreciate that. So from the governance team, we extend a thank you for all this work. In regard to this, I mean, this is the key opportunity and this is the key time where elected members are expected to be seen. It's the opportunity to have these conversations with the community. So if you, and I'm not making judgment, but if there's other places that you can jump into as far as the schedule, if you find time available, please make sure you do. It's also an opportunity, because we're getting in front of the public a lot, an opportunity to educate the public on council. Also a really good opportunity to, one, obviously encourage submissions, but encourage submissions on stuff that aren't in the plan, because this is the opportunity where, you know, people get to throw us all their wild and not so wild ideas, and we need to be able to listen to the public in that regard. So this is the time for elected members now for the next month, you know, to really go to work and get out there and be involved with the community. So all feedback is good feedback, and make sure every conversation you have is finished with, you know, please submit to the long-term plan, because that's really important. So did you have anything to add? And then
I just want to thank Megan, because this document has been done in-house. So this is Megan's work, obviously with input from Steph and Stephen and Andrea. So, you know, it's a pretty polished document. So well done, Megan.
Alrighty, so the recommendation on page 22 is council adopts the consultation document for LTP. The council notes the community engagement approach and authorises the chief executive to make minor and non-material changes which really have been made. So I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any further discussion? No. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Brilliant, thank you. Move now to 8.3, which is additional performance measures, and I'll pass back to the team. Thank you.
Thank you. So this report is about moving some of the performance measures that we in the past have had reported externally. Around the table a couple of months ago, it was decided and agreed that we would move these reporting measures internally. Audit have come back and said, no, you should, well, not no, but strongly suggested that these should now be being reported externally. I note there is one issue with one of them, and that's my mistake. I have missed out parks in the 90% resident satisfaction with community facilities. So we'll need to add parks back into that. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Steph. Questions on these updates? No? Everyone comfortable? Yeah, okay, we can move that through if everyone's comfortable. I'm happy to accept someone move that. Thank you, Councillor Shannon, seconder. Councillor Parker. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. It was brilliant. Thank you, team. Too easy. No urgent business. Minor nature. I'll welcome Mr. Steens up to just talk to us about rubbish. Thanks for all those that were in attendance. Thanks, Bill. Alrighty, Bill and Andrew, welcome. And obviously there's been, started with some time ago, bin audit, and then there's a, so maybe take us through the process if you like.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start by talking about parks and the process we've gone through and where we've got to, and then there'll be a bit of a going forward on a broader approach that is about to begin. So within parks, we've been rationalising bins for about a decade, mostly on a small basis, where we have some bins that aren't being used, no point for paying for them if they aren't used, or sometimes they're relocated to a better location. A similar review was carried out by Department of Conservation 20 years ago. They removed most of their bins and went with a pack-in, pack-out approach. At the moment, Nelson, Christchurch and Auckland, as well as other councils, are going through it, and there has been some media around that. But over the last year, we've had a more focused approach on dealing with health and safety issues raised by contractors, and also to be more cost effective. So issues raised by contractors are some bins are hardly used at all, the weight of rubbish bins, so we're getting household rubbish, bottles and all sorts of things in some bins, and for one person to lift those they're too heavy. So they're having to manually take it out of the bins, and that raises another health and safety issue about sharps and other contaminants are in there. They're not sure what they're dealing with. They've also pointed out about the household rubbish and contamination on recycling bins. Within parks, there aren't actually that many recycling. They're mainly the red bins. As a point of interest, Nelson has identified that 53% of the material they're dealing with is household rubbish being dumped into parks. Some of that comes from rural areas. Some of it is freedom campers and other people just going past doing that. Often litter and rubbish is not put in bins, being just discarded randomly or even put beside bins. Our experience is that hasn't changed much. That material's never going into the bins anyway. We have, part of the rationalisation we've undertaken is relocating the bins. Because of the weight and things, we're removing, in some instances, several smaller bins and putting larger bins beside a vehicle access where in future a truck can come along with a mechanical lifter, and that avoids the need for manual lifting. The staff have also spoken to the contracted waste educator with EnviroWaste about some public and user information, and that we're a bit behind the 8 ball there. I'm sorry, but we're still waiting on that at the moment. We found our experiences within Timaru, we have removed 80 bins, rationalised some, and we've received minimal feedback of what we've done. We've returned one extra doggy-doo bin because dogs is a concern for some people. It's interesting, where I walk my dog, if I'm on the road, there's no rubbish bins. If I'm on a park, there are. And from a personal point of view, I think that's a bit of an anomaly, and I take material home, use my own bin, but we expect to make tens of thousands of dollars in savings. If we quote Auckland Council, we're going to save 1.25 million. We're nowhere near that amount, but we expect some savings, and we've been charged by council of making savings where we can, but we're always welcome to have feedback, and if there is a particular issue where something arises, then we'll address it, and we had one yesterday from Councillor Shannon, which is easy to remedy. We'll deal with that. Quite often we just hear general comments, we don't hear specifics, and it's difficult to respond to that when they're not coming directly with enough information. But what we've been reported back from our contractors is if we take out bins the first week or two, you might get some litter or rubbish put where the bin is, and then people adjust and it carries on. There's no extra litter, and most of it settles down to the new norm. There's always, as people, we're always don't like change sometimes, and it takes a while to adjust. So that's where we're up to in parks. We're mostly completed, but there is a collective approach being looked at because there are bins that Waste and LTU have, and each has a separate contractor. So there might be an opportunity for some economies of scale or some further rationalisation to make some additional savings or make it work better. And I'm aware, speaking with Councillor Oliver, that there are some issues in Geraldine, that just minor things that could be improved, and so there's always opportunity for that. So I don't know whether you want to say.
I guess the other thing we are looking at is where there is high use areas. We're looking at seriously at the capacity of these bins, and we're actually looking at probably putting in compactor bins, so we can actually get more rubbish in there and overcome some of those full bin issues that we have around there. So that is definitely on the cards. But yeah, there is I think opportunity to rationalise a lot of how we actually empty these bins. I know in the street bins, for instance, we spend around about 150,000 to 160,000 a year just emptying them. So yeah, there is a significant cost there. Parks probably be a similar amount. So the opportunity to, I guess, amalgamate that together, and one service provider could reap some savings for us, for the council. Yeah. The other option too we're looking at, of course, with the move to in-house services for parks, there may be an opportunity to actually pick it up as part of that as well. So, thank you.
Brilliant. I'm sure there'll be some questions. Yeah, I have noticed in Timaru, it's been where a bin's removed. Yeah, the dog just dog poo just gets put there. It's like we'll just send a nice polite message to council that to put the bin back, but it's been a while. Interesting, last week or a couple of weeks ago, Temuka and Geraldine, half the feedback from the community drop-ins mentioned the bins in some shape or form. I'll go to Councillor Piddington and then we'll go to the rural members.
Yeah, look, understand why that's happening, but it seems some bins are disappearing, have disappeared from Aragi Park, and no one's happy that I've spoken to. I'm getting it in the air left, right and centre about that. It holds events, other things. So I don't think we've told them what's happening. We haven't actually discussed it with them. So I'd like to see perhaps that approach. You've got 6,000 people using that a week in winter. We need some rubbish bins, for all the dream. Also, I'm interested whether the contractors say areas of high use, because every time I cross the footbridge at the bottom of Virtue Ave, there's a bin there where you turn right, always overflowing. Every time I go in summer. If the contractors are onto it, why aren't they saying, let's put 2 bins there? Because people are making an effort. They're throwing their rubbish nearby. There's a 2-metre circle. So, it goes both ways. So I'm not being critical, but I'm just saying, if we're doing it at high usage areas like Orangi Stadium, get everyone together and ask. Because it might be you talk to the president of someone a club that says, yeah, no problem for us, but actually the people on the ground are complaining.
Thank you for that feedback. I didn't think any had been removed from Aorangi Park yet. But obviously that may not be right.
Well, it might not have happened, but they're unhappy that it's changed.
It's 44 bins being removed, so I can tell you the stats on that. And they are being replaced though with the big, the big red thing. There's probably a term for that. So there are some going in, but not as much. And there was a lot of park user feedback. But I think where we've actually fallen over is our internal processes. So where it's come unstuck is that when we are hiring it out to people, our rubbish policy is not covering it. So there's alcohol, there's whatever, and there's not a system in place. So I've had a good chat with Annette, and saying, well, we need to look at our own internal policies because clearly we're actually failing ourselves when it comes to event management within the stadium itself.
So I think, underbookable in the council facilities that we have, there is this whole section there that the organisers must provide for rubbish. We, through our zero waste, will provide them with the bins, but they're responsible for the emptying and disposal of the waste. That comes at a cost, of course, so a lot of organisers sometimes just ignore it. So, but yeah.
We changed our system too, from having it there for them to dispose the rubbish of, and now we've removed that. So
Yes.
that's where we've fallen over.
I think there's a good conversation to be had because I'm part of national organisations, and when we go to venues owned by various councils and that, we're required to take our own bins and actually deal to our own rubbish. So that's different here by the sounds of it. We need to sort out which way are we going.
I guess that was my sort of line of thinking. I mean, we've got obviously areas where the rubbish bins probably need emptied daily, but then there's others that probably only need emptied weekly. So then surely we should have that capability within our own council that, the priority gets done every day, the high usage ones, and then the other ones get, and that would be just one person in a truck, and they're doing something else. They're doing other wee jobs on behalf of the council, keeping things shipshape at the same time. I mean, if the bins are too heavy, you make them smaller and put bags in them, and that's it. That sorts that out.
So certainly in high-profile areas like Caroline Bay, daily emptying of bins. Most other areas are twice a week or more if necessary on the parks. I can't speak for other areas. So that works. The difficulty is with some bins, if people put in stuff which isn't your normal litter, some heavier stuff, and we've had the contents of freezers dumped in, frozen stuff, even a small bin, that gets quite heavy. It's quite dense. And so that's it. But yeah, there's an ongoing thing we're working through. We haven't got there yet, but thanks for all the feedback, and we'll get more feedback from the public and we'll improve things.
I think it's a question of how much you're prepared to pay. Every bin emptying costs money, and then there's the trip back to the landfill and there's disposal costs there. So it's, the higher the level of service we offer, the more it's going to cost. That is reality. So we need to sort of strike a good balance, I guess, between what is acceptable and what we can afford. And that is the challenge.
Have you got some specifics on that, as in numbers? Because you just said, well, what are the numbers? And how many high-profile rubbish bins have we got? And how many only need emptied once a week? Have you got any specifics on that?
We have got data around that, but haven't got it on me today, but I can certainly provide you that. But some of the incidents, like this down at the Sea Playground, of course, is now a very high use area. We're emptying almost daily down there now. whereas previously it was only once a week. So it costs, it's about $13 per bin to do that emptying. Adds up over a
Yeah,
year.
I guess if we had our own capability and we sort of, that just wouldn't matter. I mean, one person in a rubbish wee truck would handle that, and it's probably only going to cost us $100,000, and would be flexible.
It's something we'll be looking at when we do the service review.
Yeah, I will go to the rural team in just a moment. But 100% agree with Alan, that's the opportunity in this space. I know you mentioned those other things, but we need to move this stuff forward with some urgency. And there's some other things that we should tie into that at the same time. Councillor Shannon.
Yeah, thanks. I had a great chat with Annette yesterday. And as you know, really the issue more than anything else is that it just happened without consultation, and we all know that that's happened in the past, and we will work with the team to identify where perhaps we think one needs to go back, or if in fact there was a better place that it could have gone previously. So we'll figure that out. But a couple of questions really. I mean, the first one's not a question. I'm fascinated how dog poo has become an issue in this day and age. You know, I don't remember it being an issue as a young fella. I know largely we just let it turn white and it turned into a cloud of dust with your lawnmower, but all of a sudden in the last 10 years it's become a real issue, and people love to dump it where people walk. So my message is to the community for a start, please stop doing it, and stop doing it outside my place at 2 Alexandra Street as well. But a question actually, when you have a look around town, all around the communities, the businesses, if you like, where majority of the litter originates, I'm just interested, to what extent is council and the ratepayer entirely responsible for the rubbish bins outside these businesses, and if a new business, a new dairy, for example, was being established, is it part of the process that they provide those bins, or is a contribution towards those bins? I'm just interested in that, because when you have a look at litter, it pretty much all originates from the same places. So what are we doing about that? We know the pressure that's been put on supermarkets over the past decade about their packaging and what have you. People take all those products home, so I suppose that's where that rubbish ends up. But ice cream wrappers, drink bottles and the likes, what's been the discussion on that?
It's a question of the day, Councillor Shannon, actually. It goes down to conversations into the long-term plan, isn't it? It's about, fairness of who pays and, who receives the benefit. So I'll pass it to the team, but it's an interesting one.
Certainly any rubbish bin that's located on a road reserve or in a council park, council-owned property, that is responsibility of council, and we pay for that, not the installation and the ongoing maintenance and emptying of those bins. So there are some, of course, businesses that do put bins within their private properties, like supermarkets is a classic example. They sometimes have bins around there. They're the responsibility of those property owners or that business. So when a dairy perhaps establishes, there is actually not any mechanism that we could force them to put a bin in and that be their responsibility. So hence we get litter on the road reserve. We then have to deal with that and put a bin in to cope with that. So it's very, very, very grey area.
That's against what we're trying to do. Is we're in the rest of the spaces we're trying to encourage personal responsibility, but then we're reacting to where there is litter. So it's sort of conflicting in our approach. We'll go to Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, obviously you get a fair bit from me, obviously, but I mean, isn't it hard? Do you put in small bins that need emptied more often, or do you put big bins in that people have the ability to put their household rubbish in? Because in Geraldine we find that we've put big bins in and all we get is the household rubbish. And it's household rubbish when it's wrapped in a black bag and it's got a tie on it. And I'm not envious of your jobs going forward of how we manage this, because I can only see one solution is to get some autonomy around and some control by bringing it in-house, to be fair. Because at the moment, I'm sure you're probably not getting that from the current people that are collecting it, of telling you, well, don't put a big bin there, it's not getting used or whatever. I did a bin survey myself and, found 14-inch monitors, all sorts of stuff. Outside the local skate park, the blue rubbish bin was full of beer bottles. Well, I'm bloody sure that the kids weren't down there drinking beer all night. And if they were, the parents should probably have a bit more control. So, look, it's a real hard one, isn't it? Like, what do you do? Because it's a problem with us. And I think the biggest problem in Geraldine is that people leave Christchurch and they buy their McDonald's or their KFC or whatever, and they fill their little bag up, they get it in, and their first stop's Geraldine at the toilet, and the first place the rubbish goes from Christchurch is in our bins. And we're actually taking control of the rubbish coming from Christchurch, believe it or not, because I know it's happening because I've seen KFC and McDonald bags in the bins. And it's, how do we get some education around people not using the bins? Have we got the stickers on there that say no household rubbish? Are we making sure they're clean? Are we making sure they're on there and all that sort of thing? Because I think some of this can come down to a bit of education. And, we put big bins outside a local takeaway shop, and what do I find in there? I find in there cartons, I find in there chip boxes, cardboard boxes that they've got their frozen chips in. So it's a hard one. It's, what do you do? It's blooming difficult. So I don't envy your task, you fellas.
I love it. You're going the extra mile, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Pye.
It's quite simple. You get a really big bin with those lids on them that only enables you to put very small things in there.
Yeah. No, you are on the tourist route, and it does come with some challenges. But those that are filling up on Pies and Fizzy and Geraldine probably use the toilets at Lake Pukeki, and they're not paying for those either. So it's a bit of a balance.
Tourism tax would help.
Tourism tax, yeah. So we are doing a rating review, and some of those things will come into it. Councillor Jackson.
Could be slightly controversial, but what about coin-operated bins? I'm just saying. As someone put... Or yeah, a pay wave or whatever. Could be a...
I think we might close this conversation down before we create any other headlines. That's interesting discussion, but it does come back to the point around communication that I think Councillor Scott raised, and we have requested, I know the team's working on it, but if we can understand from each part of the business, the council organisation, that quarterly forward work program, then, councillors don't get it in the ear about some of these things. I think it just comes down to communication, and there's got to be, we need to be able to sell the why and help support it. So anything else with that fun conversation? No. Thank you. Really appreciate that, Andrew and Bill. There's no public forum for consideration. Move now to exclusion of the public. We've got some minutes to confirm. So I'll move us to public excluded. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Oliver, thank you.